This is my Lyme story. I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible because I've had issues with uploading. 3 years ago, I was a strong, healthy, active woman. I worked days as a COO for a craft supply company. In the evenings, I was a photographer. I shot music photography. I also did family portraiture and weddings. In November of that year, I contracted strep throat. I stayed sick for 3 months. Antibiotics didn't clear it up. The first 3 rounds anyway. The following year, I started having issues being able to control my blood sugar. I'm a type 2 diabetic, and until then, I had controlled it mainly through diet and exercise. It wasn't always easy, but in 2014 it got really, really difficult. From then on, there just began this downward spiral. At the time, I was making good money. I had a vehicle. I was living in a studio apartment in one of the most desired buildings in my city. I could go to the store and get what I wanted when I wanted. I didn't have any problems. I was starting to pay bills off that had accumulated from going through 28 and the crash in 2010. Things were going good, but when my health started to deteriorate, things started to go downhill really quick. By the end of 2014, I couldn't work at my day job anymore. I was too tired. I had trouble remembering things. I had to drive a couple of days a week to the airport complex to one of our manufacturers and shipping people, packaging people, and several times I got lost even though I'd been there many times before. I would get to a store and I couldn't remember what I was there for, or I would forget where I parked. I started to get dizzy spells. I attributed a lot of it to the diabetes, so I went on diabetic medication, stayed stricter in my diet, tried to exercise more, but I was so tired I couldn't force myself to exercise. In 2015, things really started to take a tumble. I was losing money. I was getting behind on my bills. I didn't have money to buy the right kinds of groceries that I needed, and because I don't have any kids living at home, we don't qualify for any kind of assistance according to our state standards, or we didn't then because my husband was working, but it was just barely enough to get by. In October of 2015, I started to get just a general sickness, and I thought maybe I had the flu. I was already experiencing numbness and pain in my legs and feet, my hands, my shoulders. I had constant headaches and a really bad ringing in my ears that just doesn't quit. By the end of 2015, I was pretty much staying in my house unless I had to go out. I was managing a band and still trying to do some photography because it's my passion, and I just didn't want to give it up. And I wasn't doing much of anything else. I would go to a show on the weekend, and it would take 3 or 4 days to recover enough strength to be able to move through the rest of the week. In early 2016, this year, I started to have issues with speech. At first, it was just forgetting a few words or calling something a name that it's not, like telling my husband that the clean dishes were in the refrigerator instead of the dishwasher, or forgetting the names of people that I knew and having to really search hard in my brain to remember. Missing scheduled appointments, and I got into the habit of writing things down, writing everything down. Post-it notes are my best friend. I should have stock in 3M. Also, I was beginning to experience really bad mood swings and depression. And I just attributed that to the fact that I was so sick and so tired, and that in itself can make you depressed when you're that tired and you can't function. Fast forward to April this year, I put on an outdoor concert to benefit veterans with PTSD. And because it was my show and I organized it, I had to be there from sunup till after the show was over, which was, I got there at 6 a.m. and I didn't leave till almost 1 a.m. the next morning. It was cold and it was outside and I was on my feet all day. I didn't have time to stop and rest and eat or drink much water, which is, excuse me, something I drink a lot of. And I got really, really sick. The next morning, I almost couldn't get out of bed. I was so sore I couldn't move. My back hurt, my legs hurt, my neck hurt. Again, I just attributed that to the fact that I'm older and I was on my feet and I'm not in great shape. You know, all the things we tell ourselves. But the sickness didn't really go away. I had a cough that wouldn't quit. And it wasn't a productive cough, it was just a dry, hacking cough that would not quit. Finally figured out how to keep that subsided by keeping those orange, Hall's orange citrus drops all the time. Realized financially we were now really, really struggling. My husband had lost his job and was looking for new work. So I went and got another job working at a call center doing hotel booking. And I would be on the phone and coughing so hard I couldn't catch my breath. Finally, my supervisor told me, just take some time off and try to get well, because it's obvious you're not functioning well. I'm pretty good on the phone. And I always make what they call SPIF, which is a daily cash bonus if you meet certain numbers. And I was hitting that mark, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't. I couldn't talk long enough. I had a constant headache. I would sit at my cubicle and cry because I felt so bad, but I didn't want to go home because I needed the money. But I ended up that night taking off, and it took about 3 days for me to get to feeling where I could go back to work again. Went back and was there about 2 weeks, and I had a seizure, and it was a grand mal, so they called the ambulance. Got over that, went back to work a couple of days later, had another seizure. This one wasn't a grand mal, it was more of a focal seizure, but it left me not being able to speak. This was in July. In the meantime, we were trying to get moved because we knew we were either going to have to move or get evicted. And where I live, if you have an eviction on your record, you can't rent anything else. And because we don't have the money to own a home, we don't want that on. I don't want to be evicted. So we decided to move. Found a weekly hotel room that between my job and his job we could kind of afford. And the night that we were moving in, I got so sick that I ended up in the emergency room. They diagnosed me with a touch of bronchitis, maybe a little bit of the flu, in July. Gave me an antibiotic, sent me home. I took the antibiotic, had 3 days off work, took the antibiotic, went back to work, and within 2 hours of being at work had another seizure. That was when I decided something just wasn't right. There are a lot of other issues that I don't have time to cover in this, a lot of other symptoms. I started doing research into my symptoms because I couldn't afford to go to a doctor. We've lost everything because of this. I haven't been on my job since August 27th. I've worked 4 hours in 58 days. I have really bad photophobia. And as soon as I walk into the office where there's fluorescent lights and computer screens and people being really loud, I also have phonophobia. It triggers something in my brain that causes a seizure. the seizures trigger something in my brain that takes away the ability to speak properly. I speak gibberish. I can't put sentences together. It's also given me really bad, if you notice, this eye closes and opens slower than the other one. It droops. This side of my face and my mouth droop. I get skin eruptions, like really bad, and they're not like acne, they're just, I don't know what it is, but it's like they just, anyway, I started doing research and came across a lot of things about Lyme disease, and at first, you know, I don't remember being bit by a tick, and then I remembered a tick that I found after doing a photo shoot in the park that was between my toes, but I never got a rash, and it didn't look like the right kind of tick, so I just kind of blew it off. Then I was watching Dr. Oz one day. I'm not a huge TV person, so it's kind of kismet to me that this all happened when it did. I was struggling with trying to be better enough to go back to work. At that point, I'd probably been out of work about a week and a half. I was spending about 99% of my time in bed. I couldn't eat. I was hurting so bad I wanted to scream. Everything hurt for no reason. My head got so sore I couldn't touch it. And I was watching Dr. Oz, and it was the day he did the show with Yolanda Foster, who is, for those of you that don't know or don't keep up, she's one of the cast members of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think, or the OC, I'm not sure, but it's one of those California ones. Anyway, she was talking about her struggles with Lyme disease, and she was discussing the brain fog and in the neurological symptoms, and that's what really piqued my interest, because I have a lot of neurological issues: vision problems, hearing problems, speech problems, memory problems, issues with sleep. I'm tired. I'm like so exhausted it literally hurts to think, but actually getting good sleep is impossible. I sleep for 2 hours, I wake up, I hurt. I try to get up and move or do something to get me tired again enough to be able to lay down and sleep, if that makes any sense. And I sleep for 2 hours and then I'm up. So this is the cycle that I'm in. So I finally found a clinic that works on a sliding fee scale. We saved up. It took us 2 weeks to save $35 so I could go to the doctor. I get to the doctor, and by this time I'm convinced, because I've done enough research. Any Limey out there knows you have to be your own advocate, and we pretty much become professionals in this, because we have to research not only the symptoms but the causes and the underlying causes and the co-infections and the treatments, and because there's no medication for it and it's incurable. At this stage there is no cure. So I had done enough research that I became convinced I've got Lyme disease. So I wrote a whole list of things out, and I wrote a note on the bottom of it that said, look, this is what I'm here for. I don't have enough money to jack around trying other things out or test for this, test for that, and I don't have enough money to fill a bunch of prescriptions. So I want a Lyme test. I want a specific Lyme test through a specific lab. I have to have a doctor's order to get it. I want my blood work done, and I need something for pain, because I'm in so much pain, it's excruciating. Well, I get in there and I tell the doctor all of this, and she looks at me and she says, well, there's never been a diagnosed case of Lyme disease in the state of Missouri. And I wanted to scream, because I told her that the bite that I got that I thought infected me with Lyme, at first I thought it might be the tick between my toes, but I have a place on my leg where I was bitten by a horsefly when I was at the lake when I was 18. That bite has never gone away. I have a constant red welt that sometimes will get like a pimple, then it'll dry up, but the red knot is still there, and I think that's where it came from. Oh no, that's not possible. You get Lyme from ticks. It's not, which even the CDC, who is another issue on its own. Anyway, long story short, this doctor just decided that I have fibromyalgia, and depression, duh, and maybe a little bit of chronic fatigue syndrome. So she prescribed me some medications. Oh, and another medication to keep my diabetes under control, more metformin. They gave me a stick and some, or what I call a stick, a glucose meter, and some strips, enough strips to last me a week. And, like that's going to help because I can't afford to go pay $50 for a bottle of strips. Long story short, she just pretty much blew off the idea that I had Lyme. So this is where I'm at now. I have no official diagnosis. I cannot get an official diagnosis. I can't afford an official diagnosis. I can't afford to put gas in my car for a week. We have lost everything. My husband is the only one working. On a good week, his income, total, bring home income, is $228. $125 of that goes to rent. The rest of it has to cover gas in the car, my medicine should I get sick, the herbs and supplements I'm trying to use to try to get myself well enough to go back to work, groceries, necessities like, toilet paper, shampoo, soap, laundry detergent so we can have clean clothes. By the time we pay the rent and take care of just a few things, there's nothing left. He gets paid on Fridays. It's Saturday. We're broke. So that's my story, and that's where I'm at now. I'm trying to come up with ways to raise some money so I can afford to get the test done and go to it. I found a neuropath here in town that will work with me, but I have to have the $75 to get in to see him. And the rate we're going now, it'll be next year before I have that money. And the rate I'm going now, I have not had a day above a 7 or below a 7 in probably 2 months. I go through every day in a fog. I have periods like now where I can actually speak and kind of stay on track. Most of the time, I'm totally lost. I don't drive. I don't go anywhere by myself. When my husband leaves, I stay here inside because I have been known to get outside and completely forget where I am and which room is mine. I have a Walmart across the street. I've walked to Walmart and forgotten how to get back home. I know what I have. I'm tired of people telling me, oh, well, you look great. I'm tired of my husband, and I love him and I know he's frustrated, but I'm so sick of hearing him say, well, when you go back to work, I don't know when I'm going back to work, and I feel so much pressure already to go back because I know how much it's hurting us financially. So, as of right now, I'm treating at home. I did a bunch of research on herbs. And the benefit of this to me is, even if I don't have Lyme, if it turns out by some fluke I don't have Lyme, everything that I'm using is homeopathic and isn't going to hurt me. It doesn't cause any severe side effects. I don't get a lot of really bad herxing. So it's not something that's going to do me more damage. And it may do a lot of good. So what I'm doing right now, first of all, apple cider vinegar, I keep it in my water. I take a teaspoon of it with black strap molasses and a little bit of cinnamon every morning to help control my blood sugar. I use ashwagandha to help with nerve pain, to help with being able to rest. I use ginger for digestion and to try to clear up the candida that I know I've got. I know the symptoms of candida, and I know that's one of the co-infections or one of the issues that I have. I use kudzu for blood sugar control and also for some other things. I don't remember what all the herbs do. I just know that what helps. I have stopped eating anything that's not organic, that has any kind of sugar added to it, gluten, wheat. I don't use any dairy. I've started using coconut oil instead of any kind of butter or anything like that on my food. I use almond milk and I make a drink called Golden Milk that has turmeric, which is very good for inflammation. I have a lot of inflammation in my body. The trick is that all of these things, organic is outrageously expensive, fresh produce is outrageously expensive. So I'm not able to stay consistent on my regimen because I don't have enough cash to keep me going from day to day to day to day with the herbs and the supplements. I've run out of almost all my supplements. I think I've got 2 vitamins left. So that's where I am. I want to get to a point where I can do a consistent regimen every day, all the time. Anyway, that's my Lyme story. I keep studying, I keep reading, I keep trying to progress. I've started doing art and crafty stuff so that I can regain the ability to concentrate, because I get very, very, very scatterbrained. Like, I start on one project and then I see something and I have to get up and go take care of that, and then I'm in the middle of that and I've got to take care of something else, and before you know it, I've got 50 things going on and nothing's getting done. It also helps me kind of not concentrate on how bad I feel. On days when I have extremely bad pain like today, if I can do like make paper roses or draw, I do Zentangles because it's a relaxing thing. If I can do that, it helps me not hurt so much, not concentrate so much on the pain. But again, the issue comes back to cash. I run out of things that I need to do those things. So anyway, this is my Lyme story. I will continue to post updates as I can. Right now, I really want people to pray for me because, like I said, we're broke. We are at a point where we have no groceries. Don't have any gas in the car for this next week, and I definitely don't have money to refill the one pain medication that I do take, which is gabapentin. Doesn't really stop the pain. It helps me rest. Yeah, so just say prayers, please. Thank you.